sunrise, a symbol that a new day has begun, a new opportunity to build, to grow, or to start over. The sun will rise some nearly 30,000 times in the average person's lifespan. But how many of you take in the time to stop and appreciate? At Fair Dinkum Coffee Shop, we understand that sunrise is where dreams become reality, where champions begin their journey, and where a warm smile and a great cup of coffee can make the rest of your day. That's why every day we handcraft our coffee, from the roaster all the way to your cup. Why is it our mission to make you a great cup of coffee and put a smile on your face? Well, for us, that's like watching the sun come up. Fair Dinkum Coffee Shop. Make the best of your sunrise. Proudly serving Wimberley, Texas.
With your hands on my chest, you're an artist with your body. Closer and closer, you're all over me, as the passion's running wild and free. Your eyes roll, you take control. I'm so love drunk that I drank you up.
Houston, Texas, the Bayou City, Space City, Clutch City, the H. No matter what you call Houston, as long as you call it home, then you know that down here, we're all about culture. From legendary barbecue, historic rodeos, and a unique slab culture that has completely changed the game. Never underestimate the heart of a Houstonian, because when our backs are against the wall, you better believe that we're gonna come through in the clutch. Speaking of clutch, our sports teams know a little something about that too. It's a great time to be a sports fan in the city of Houston. The Astros have been the most dominant team in baseball going on a decade, and the Houston Texans have found their quarterback of the future. Hell, even the Dynamo are trying to add a few more trophies to the case. And the new look Rockets finally have the leadership they've been desperately seeking. With a combination of rising young stars and seasoned vets, they are looking to establish themselves as a force to be reckoned with. What more could the city ask for? How about a podcast from someone who lives and breathes with every snap, every pitch, and every tip-off at center court, just like you do. Someone who's been repping H-Town 10 toes down since he was prone on the floor and will be until they put him in the dirt. Someone who's watched the Houston Legends put our city on the map and is ready to witness a new era of greatness. The national media ain't putting in work to cover our teams the way that you deserve. Nick Stevenson may not be the voice that Houston asked for, but he's definitely the voice that we need. So what it do, H-Town? Are you ready to hold it down for the greatest city in the world? Houston Sports State of the Union Podcast.
Want to tip the host? Just scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Get a free Houston Sports State of the Union Podcast t-shirt with a donation of $50 or more.
This is the Houston Sports State of the Union Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson.
Thank you so much. My goodness, please be seated. My fellow Houstonians, welcome to this Houston Sports State of the Union address for the week of March 31st. I am the self-appointed president of Houston Sports Nation, Nick Stevenson, and thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast today. Listen, as I always say, there are 1,000 different things you could be doing right now, but you chose to spend a little bit of time with me. I can't be more thankful for that. And we got a lot to cover in today's show. The Houston Texans ain't playing around. If you haven't heard, they've got a new star wide receiver. After doing some restructuring, we had a feeling they were going to do something, but we didn't quite know what it was. Well, now we know. Are the Houston Astros cooked? Let's slow down. We got 154 more games to go. However, the Houston Rockets, their chances of making the playoffs are, they're not going to. We'll get to that in a minute. But thank you guys so much for joining the show. I can't wait to get into it. Before we get started, I want to remind you guys that there are ways, if you'd like to support the show, that you can do such. Starting with the thing that you're doing right now. You're watching. Hopefully you guys are sharing right now with all your Houston sports friends, everyone who's into Houston sports and loves our Houston sports teams. That's the best way you can support me, and you're doing that right now, and I appreciate it. Also, if you look in the link in the description notes or the show notes, whether you're listening or watching, you will see a link in there to a tip jar. If you guys want to donate anything to the show, all of those donations go directly back into the show to keep bringing you great content. There's also a QR code right there if you guys are watching. But if you're listening, there's a link in the description or show notes, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you choose to get your podcast fix. You can see that in the notes. Also in the notes, there's some affiliate links. If you guys are interested in checking out the fan gear of the week, all of our Houston sports teams are represented. If you guys want to get some fan gear to wear on game day, why not use my link? Help me out. Give me a little cha-ching. I appreciate that very much. There's also some links in there to the podcast equipment that I'm using to bring you this lovely show. Many of you may be interested in podcasting on your own and thinking to yourself, I wonder how he does that. I wonder what he's using. Well, if you go in the description or the show notes, you'll see all the links to everything I use to bring this show to you. And if you guys buy from those links, I will also get a little piece of that. So those are the ways you can contribute to the show. Eventually, once I get this thing rolling, I would love to have your business sponsor the show. I would love to help you grow your business. We grow our business together. I've got a little scroll ticker right here that could be advertising your business. Also, if you guys watch early on in the show, I do play a few videos to allow people to get in the room. And if you want a video customized for your business to represent you and advertise your business, I would love to do that for you as well. So if you guys are interested in that, you can either DM me, whether you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube. I'm also on Twitch. I'm on Kick. I'm trying to get everywhere you could possibly want to watch a podcast about Houston sports. Houston Sports Nation represent. Thank you guys so much, though, for being here. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about. Why don't we go ahead and get right into it, man? Let's not waste any time with the state of the Houston Texans. All right, Houston, Stephon Diggs, he's coming. The Texans trade a second-round pick in 2025 to the to the Buffalo Bills. And the Buffalo Bills send us a 2025 fifth-round pick and a 2024 sixth-round pick. You're thinking to yourself, that sounds a little light. All we had to do is give up a second-round pick for next year. Sounds a little light to me, too. And there's two ways to look at it. You can wonder, does the Buffalo Bills know something that nobody else knows about Stephon Diggs? Or did they really just want to get rid of this dude? I tend to lean towards the latter. I think they really wanted to move on from Stephon Diggs, and it's obvious. And there were rumors all over circulating probably for the last 2 years about him not being happy, his relationship with Josh Allen not being good. We all remember a couple years ago in the playoff game versus Cincinnati, there was a sideline shot of them having a spirited conversation, you might say. So the Texans, though, we're looking at this from their perspective. I mean, they're obviously going all in, 100%. And if you're a Houston sports fan, you love it. I actually did a poll on my Facebook page in the new fan group for the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast. You guys go follow it. It's called Houston Sports Nation. There's a H-Town hand emoji next to it because I think there is one other Houston Sports Nation group. I'm not going to say who copied who, but if you guys would love to join that group, I would love to have you be a part of it. That's where I want you guys to give your suggestions for the show. Give me your takes so I can share them on the show. I will love getting game day picks if you guys are at the games or videos, hype videos, whether you're at the stadium, whether you're at a sports bar, if you're just at the house chilling, having a cookout with the boys, the girls. I love it. So as much interaction as I can get with you, the listener, you guys, the fans, that is what I am here for. I may be the president of Houston Sports Nation, but that is because I represent you, the fan. I'm just like you. I'm one of the fans, so I love seeing you guys share all of your picks and of you and your fan gear. I love it. So keep it up. Keep it up. All right. So anyway, I put a poll in there and I asked, with the addition of Stephon Diggs, does that make the Houston Texans immediate Super Bowl contenders? Overwhelmingly, the majority of you who participated in this poll said yes. I did have a few dissenters, and I would love to hear from them if they are watching. I know Brian Smith was one of them. He had an interesting take on it. Several people who chimed in, though, believed that this is the move that puts the Texans over the top. If you feel that way, you're not alone. Now, for a city who very, very often laments the fact that the national media does not give us any love, the national media they've been all over the Houston Texans right now. Matter of fact, I'm going to be sharing a video clip later about just how big the national media has been on the Houston Texans, just how heavy they've been on the Houston Texans since making this move. I thought I put it on the board, but it's looking like I didn't. Look, man, still working out the kinks in this. But long story short, any talking head you can think of right now, the majority of them are saying that the Houston Texans now are the biggest threat to the Kansas City Chiefs, surpassing everyone, including the team that beat the Houston Texans last year, the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, I'm extremely excited about what the Houston Texans have done, and we've talked about it on this show. You got to give a lot of credit to D'Amico Ryans. You got to give a lot of credit to Nick Caserio. But let's pump the brakes just a little bit. Like, let's not schedule the parade just yet, because you don't win Super Bowls in April. And if you're a Houston Texans fan, look, I don't want you to be a pessimist, but we've seen this story before. Let me take you back a little ways to 2013. Do you recall? The Houston Texans had just come off of a playoff loss to the Patriots, and it wasn't even close. Like, the Patriots smacked the Texans in the mouth for the second time that year. And the Texans really didn't finish that season strong, because I think they were 8-1 at one point and then ended up finishing 12-4. So yeah, we've seen this before. That offseason, everyone was predicting that the Houston Texans were Super Bowl, not necessarily Super Bowl bound, but they were Super Bowl contenders. All of my friends and family were like, man, we're going to the Super Bowl. I remember having a very specific conversation with an uncle of mine who told me that he believed the Texans were going to win 14 games, go to the Super Bowl, and win it. Now, to be fair to the Texans, their offseason that year was a whole lot different than the offseason this year. So I want to be fair to the fans who are hyped about this year. If you recall 2013, the Texans lost Connor Barwin. They lost Brian Cushing. They lost Owen Daniels. They lost Danielle Manning, Kevin Walter. There was a lot of subtractions to that 2013 that 2012 team and the 2011 team as well. And now you had an older Andre Johnson. You had a Arian Foster who had some miles on him now. For all of those reasons, I was not nearly as optimistic as everyone else. And people thought I was crazy for saying so. Well, I am the president of Houston Sports Nation for a reason. How did that season turn out? Well, despite drafting a young DeAndre Hopkins, who was very clear very early on that he was that dude, and it looked like Andre Johnson was going to be passing the torch to him. Once again, Andre was older. Arian Foster injured himself halfway through the season. He had a herniated disc, ended up getting surgery. And then Matt Schaub went colorblind, if you'll recall, because he threw a whole lot of touchdown passes to the other team. Long story short, that Super Bowl bound team that all the national media was hype on ended up going 2-14 that year. Now, I don't think that the 2024 Houston Texans are going to go 2-14. As a matter of fact, like I said, I am very excited about this year. I think that the Texans have a very great opportunity to do something they've never done before. That's win a second playoff game. Maybe even have that second playoff game be at home. Maybe, dare I say, host an AFC championship game. I think they have an opportunity to do that, and that has to be the goal. My man, I'm checking my. Let me pause on this really quick. I am checking the chat, guys. I see you guys in there. I'll be getting to you in just a little bit because I want you guys to participate in the show. I see my man Aaron. I see Cecil. You guys are there. Love you guys. Thank you so much for joining the show. But like I was saying, in 2013, the media was all over the Texans. And I think we bought into it because for some reason, Houston sports fans, that just really tickles our fancy when the national media is talking about us. Even though 9 times out of 10, most of those guys don't follow the team, and most of those people have no idea what they're talking about. Like, you and I know more about the Houston Texans than anybody who's predicting them, to be Super Bowl contenders. Unlike 2013, though, I do think that the national media is onto something. To be fair, CJ Stroud is not Matt Schaub. Okay. Our wide receiver core, especially with the addition of Stephon Diggs, is much better than what we had in 2013. No disrespect to Andre Johnson, but he was on the downside of his career. And then after D-Hop, you really didn't have anything at all. You had a bunch of guys who were either out of the league or they're playing UFL right now. So, and then on defense, you know, you had J.J. Watt. You had Whitney Merciless, who was one of those guys who, like, Pro Football Focus loved him because of all the immeasurable stats that he racked up. But, like, Houston Texans fans are just like, dude, get to the quarterback. I don't really care that you got more pressures than anybody else in the league. Like, get to the guy, get to the quarterback, sack him, please. So that 2013 team was ultimately a big disappointment. I don't foresee the Houston Texans being a disappointment this year, but I want to know from you guys, what do you guys think of the move? Does it make the Texans Super Bowl contenders? Dare I ask you to predict what you think their record might be? I'm just looking forward to watching the season. If the Texans are going to accomplish something they've never accomplished before, a lot of things need to go right for them. You guys know that winning a Super Bowl has much more to do than the talent that's on your team. You know, if that was the case, if that was the case, the Buffalo Bills were one of the most talented teams in football for several years, like 4 years in a row. And ultimately, I would say their fan base, their team, is disappointed in how that went. And I have a very good friend named Prescott Kelly, a.k.a. P. Scott, a.k.a. the host of Chopping It Up with P. Scott. He's a Bills fan. And I had to check on him this week and ask, hey, man, you okay? You need to talk about it? Because it seems that the Buffalo Bills, even though they have their quarterback, it seems they're going in the complete opposite direction of the Houston Texans. But I think rightfully so. And speaking of P. Scott reminds me of a discussion that we had. I think it's very clear that the Houston Texans are going all in, and they're trying to follow the blueprint that's been followed by several other teams. What is that? That is, find a young, hopefully great rookie quarterback or young quarterback, and while he's on his rookie deal, you spend the money, you bring in the veterans, and you build a team with lots of talent around him, and you get your ass to the Super Bowl. Now, P. Scott, I love you. You're a hell of a talented podcaster. You're very good at what you do. But we had this conversation, and P. Scott poo-pooed on the idea, on the idea that is actually the way you build a Super Bowl team. Have a young quarterback on a rookie deal, build around him. As much as I love you, brother, I have to disagree with you because the data is not on your side. The last 6 Super Bowls have featured a quarterback on their rookie deal. I can list off Russell Wilson, made the Super Bowl and won it at least one time. Cam Newton got to the Super Bowl, didn't win it. Carson Wentz, he was the starter for the majority of the year his team got to the Super Bowl. Obviously, he got hurt. The last 4 games of the season were won by Nick Foles, but that team was built around a young rookie quarterback on a cheap deal. They made it to the Super Bowl. Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Now, the only two of all those guys, the only one who actually won was Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. So if you want to make the argument, P. Scott, that that's not the formula to actually win the Super Bowl, I'll meet you halfway on that. However, you can't win it if you don't get there. And clearly, there's been a pattern laid on a really good way to get there. Now, once you get there, I mean, anything can happen. So, but I believe the Texans are absolutely following the program of young, talented, hopefully great quarterback on a rookie deal. Let's go all in. Let's spend some money. Because if you look at the way they've structured all their contracts, by the time it's time to pay CJ, all of their big deals will be expiring. And then they're going to have to try to do what Kansas City has done. Once they paid Patrick Mahomes, now their strategy switches. Now the strategy switches to get younger, get cheaper around him, try to find young, cheap talent to put around this great quarterback who's going to elevate them anyway. And it's worked for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And I think they're the new Patriots. They're the blueprint now. So a lot of teams are going to be trying to mimic what they're doing. And I think the Texans are doing just that. And may I add, I think they're doing a brilliant job. I forgot to mention that the Texans voided the last 3 years of Stephon Diggs' contract. So he becomes a free agent after this year. That means he is playing for the bag. Now, the question is that a good thing or a bad thing? There's 2 ways to see it. I was speaking to my brother about this just before the show. The way my brother sees it, he's playing for the bag. He's going to have to be on his best behavior on the sidelines, and he's going to have to produce. He'll probably be in the best shape of his career so he can earn another long-term big money contract. And I can totally see it that way. That is definitely a possibility. Another way I can see it is he's probably going to have a lot of incentive to want to put up big numbers. And CJ Stroud is not a quarterback who's going to force you the ball just because you want it. CJ Stroud makes his reads, he finds the open man, and he hits the open man. And you got a lot of talent on offense now catching the ball. You even got Joe Mixon in the backfield who can come out of the backfield, catch the ball. You've got Nico Collins. You've got Tank Dell back. Dalton Schultz, obviously. I don't know what the plan is with Mechie and or Hutchinson, but all of a sudden, a position that we were kind of concerned about is all of a sudden looking really deep and really good. And yeah, there's only one ball. So the fact that he's going to be a free agent and he's going to be playing to get that big deal again, it could go one of 2 ways. And if you want to believe all the stories, all the rumblings about the type of locker room guy that Stephon Diggs is, that may be concerning to you. I think the good news is he's going into a locker room that has already established leadership, and with D'Amico Ryans, with CJ Stroud, with the good mix of veterans and young guys that they have on the team, I think Nick Caserio, D'Amico Ryans, they looked at the situation and said, you know what? Let's go for it. We can bring this guy in, and if it doesn't work out, if he starts acting crazy, if he starts acting stupid, he's just not on the team next year, you know? And the great news about that, not only did you get 2 draft picks, but if he walks away in free agency next year, you're going to get a compensatory pick for him. So honestly, man, it's been a masterclass by Nick Caserio, who all of a sudden, he got the right coach, he got the right quarterback, and now he looks like a genius. What do you know? But what do you guys think about the Texans, man? Let me get into the chat here. Oh, my kinfolk, Kendall Richardson. He also, yes, Brock Purdy. I can't believe I forgot that. He was just in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, also on a rookie deal. We can talk about Tom Brady. Tom Brady was on his rookie deal. Now, in fairness to this argument, Tom Brady was not on a team that was trying to build around a young quarterback. He was on a team that is more similar to what Kansas City is doing now. They had the expensive quarterback. They were trying to put young talent around Drew Bledsoe at the time. Drew Bledsoe gets hurt. Tom Brady makes it to the Super Bowl and wins it on a rookie deal. So I guess it's halfway in favor of that argument, halfway not. But at the end of the day, you can't deny that rookie quarterbacks on cheap deals that play well and have a lot of talent around them, that's the key to success. I don't know that you can really argue that. Health is going to be a really, really big and critical thing and that's, I mean, obviously that's every year, but excuse me, if the Texans are going to do what everybody's hoping that they're going to do, they're going to have to stay healthy. Titus Howard, for the love of all that is sacred, please, I don't know what you have to do. Take some vitamin D, some vitamin C, take some supplements, eat raw fish and asparagus, start meditating, pray to Jobu. I don't know. Whatever you got to do to stay healthy, man, please do it. Laramie Tunsil, I need you to stay healthy and stop jumping off sides. You're a great player. I'm sure you're watching right now because I'm sure you're a huge fan of the show. I'm talking to you, though, but we need you guys to stay healthy. We got to keep CJ healthy. That is the most important part. The Texans in 2011, in my opinion, that is the best chance they've ever had to win a Super Bowl. And they lost to both their starting and their second string quarterback. So obviously CJ's got to stay healthy. There's so much you can't win the Super Bowl on paper. You can't win it in April. There's a lot that's going to go into this, but I really, really hope that we're going to be celebrating the Houston Texans do something they've never done before. And my bro got his season tickets this year after being on a waiting list for quite some time. So I'm going to have to be extra nice to him now so I can get up there. We'll be in the nosebleeds probably, but hey, we'll be in there. That's for sure. Let's see. Let's go to the chat and see what some of you guys are saying about the Houston Texans. Let's see. All right. Kendall brought up Brock Purdy. Cecil Daniel Thompson. What's up, brother? How's it going? He says, Diggs didn't sound to me like he was happy to be here. Just here to get his money. That's possible, Cecil. But as long as he balls out, are you okay with that? That's the question. Because if he wants to get his money, to my brother's point, he's going to have to behave and he's going to have to produce. And that just might be his personality. I did see a video where he took to social media. And I got to imagine, it's hard for a player to get traded because you've been in one place for 4 years, had a really great run with Buffalo. I think he probably did like the fans. He did like the organization. At one point, him and Josh Allen were really tight. So I don't want to judge his immediate reaction because he's probably having a lot of mixed emotions at that point. So I would say, let's not judge. Let's wait till he gets in the building. All right. Training camp. When he gets here, they got a really tight locker room right now. So I think they can handle embracing him. I think they can handle getting him to get in line with what they got going on. And like I said before, if not, no big deal, because he'll be a free agent next year and you let him walk. So it's a very low risk, high reward move, in my opinion. And it should just be very encouraging to all of you Houston Texans fans, because we have a team that's relevant. We have a team that's going for it. We have a team that has a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. That's all we want, man. That's all we really want. Let's see. Curtis Davis says, pod looking dope. Thank you. Thank you so much, Curtis. Curtis, if I'm not mistaken, you are with the Bayou City Boys, which is another Houston sports podcast. Very entertaining. They are very informative. I would have loved, I would love to have them on this podcast. My previous podcast, we used a lot of spicy language. I've tried to keep it down on this one a little bit because I want the kids to watch too. I'm trying to create new Houston sports fans. I'm tired of Houston sports fans going and being Warriors fans or following LeBron to whatever 500th team he's gone to. Like, we need our young Houston sports, the children of Houston, to be Houston sports fans. And that is one of my goals with this podcast. I've told you guys before, I would love to eventually get enough sponsors to where I'm sending people to games, creating new H-Town sports fans. That's one of the huge goals of mine, because I always say it's more than just the game. It's about the pride in your city. It's about wanting to see your team's name in glory, like we've done with the Houston Astros and we've done in the past with the Rockets. So I'm really excited to keep doing this, hopefully growing the show, collaborating with some other Houston sports podcasters. Let's do this thing together, man. Let's grow our audiences together. Okay, so aside from health, aside from the obvious things, like, what do we think the best pathway to the Texans reaching their ultimate goal of the Super Bowl is? In my opinion, look, when we played Baltimore Ravens this past playoff game, you cannot tell me that weather was not a factor. I mean, weather was definitely a factor. The Houston Texans had one of the best offenses in all of football, and they did not score one offensive touchdown. Now, I know that the Ravens defense had a lot to do with that, of course. And that's probably another reason that the Houston Texans have really gone all in on their defense. And I think now that, I mean, our offense looks pretty set. I got to imagine that the draft is going to be pretty defense heavy. If I had to guess, I'm thinking they're going to be drafting a lot of defensive players. I told you guys last week, Kool-Aid McKinstry was on the latest NFL.com mock draft, who's a cornerback from Alabama. I mean, cornerback is one of those positions I always say I don't think you can have too many. You can never have too many cornerbacks. I don't think you can ever have too many running backs, because you never know what's going to happen with those guys. So get as many as you possibly can. But if you don't want to worry about weather, how about you do this, Houston? D'Amico, Nick, you watching? You listening? Thank you. How about you just make sure that the road to the Super Bowl has to go through Houston? How do you do that? By having the best record in the AFC, getting a bye week, guaranteeing that the pathway, the road to the Super Bowl has got to come through H-Town. Then you ain't got to worry about weather. It'll be a sultry 72, 70, maybe 68 degrees, depending on, I mean, once they pack that thing out, it gets a little warm in there. But if the Texans want to do something they've never done before, they're going to have to do something they've never done before, in my opinion. And that's get the number one seed and don't have to worry about playing in places like Baltimore or Buffalo or Cincinnati, places where, guys, can you guys answer this question for me? In 2024, why does every stadium not have a roof? That goes for all sports, baseball, football. Why don't all stadiums have roofs at this point? It really ticks me off in October when the Astros are playing a playoff game and in New York it's raining or it's snowing and they got to postpone the game, which generally is in favor of the team who's either behind, which when it's the Astros and the Yankees, of course the Yankees are always behind. Okay, they're going to talk crap to us right now because we lost the first 4 games of the regular season. But check the scoreboard in the postseason, baby. Let's see. I'll tell you what. Anybody want to call the show and talk some Houston Texans before we move on? I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. The phone number is 832-835-3141. If you want to speak to the president of Houston Sports Nation, I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, the chat, I got Cecil Daniel Thompson says, we're going to see because I believe whether he balls out or not, somebody's going to sign him. And I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm just hoping my team as one will come together and win. Hey, brother, me and you are in the same boat. I'm right there with you. And here's the thing. I think the Texans were going to be good without Stephon Diggs. And if Stephon Diggs doesn't catch, matter of fact, how about we look at this is his career stats, guys. Stephon Diggs played 136 games, 810 receptions, 9,995 receiving yards. He averages 12.3 yards per catch. He got 67 touchdowns in his career so far. Okay? Half of that was played in Minnesota. Let's look at his last 4 seasons with Buffalo. In 66 games, he has 445 receptions. That is number 1 in the NFL of all receivers. Receiving yards, 5,372. That's good enough for 4th. Still averaging 12.3. And he does not have 67 touchdowns. I believe he's got 39 or 30. He's got, just under 40 touchdowns in the last 4 years. Sorry, I messed up on that graphic. It tends to happen. Sorry about that. I don't think on this team, Stephon Diggs needs to put up that type of production. It'll be great if he does. Don't get me wrong. But on this team, like I said, there's a quarterback. He's going to spread the ball around. He's going to go through his reads. Stephon wants the ball. You better get open first. Because CJ, you get open, CJ will find you. And I think Bobby Slowick is going to do a great job of scheming. He did a great job of getting his guys open, running just 2 wide receiver sets, which, like in Texans history, we've never seen. Credit to Brian Smith, who pointed that out to me when we were having a discussion. I mean, Bobby Slowick can do some things. And I'm just really excited, man, because now he's got a toy box full of toys. He's got a toy box full. And I can't wait to see what the offense looks like. Everybody should be very, very excited for Houston Texans football. Cecil says, we have a roof to open and close. They never open it, even on good days. Talking about both teams, Texans and Astros. Yeah, and I'm cool with that. It gets really loud when the roof is closed. And, I mean, yeah. Yes, the taxpayers paid a lot of money to have those retractable roofs. I agree with you. Baseball, I would rather watch outside if the weather's nice. Football, I don't really care. Close the roof. Let's get loud in there. The roof at NRG is kind of weird anyway, because like it doesn't really open all the way. Like it's not a true convertible. It's like a little hole up there. So that doesn't matter to me at all. But all I'm saying is if the Texans want to get where they want to go and they don't want to have to worry about weather, inclement weather, snow, any of those things, just get the best record in the league, or at least in the AFC. And then you're going to get to play the Super Bowl somewhere warm, somewhere awesome, more than likely. I know we did do one Super Bowl in New York, however many years ago that was. But, yeah, more than likely the Super Bowl is going to be somewhere indoors. So just make sure the AFC Championship game is in NRG, and let's win that dang thing. All right. I have not received any calls, so that's cool. You guys can keep heating me up in the chat, though. If you want to talk Houston Texans, that's fine. You can put those in the chat. But let's go ahead and move on to the state of the Houston Astros. All right. The Astros are 2-5. They're cooked, right? Sky's falling. No! Their season is... Not really. Let's slow down. It's a lot of games to go. And believe it or not, even with a 2-5 start, I'm actually very, very excited about the Astros. Why do you ask? Nick, you're crazy. Why are you excited about 2-5? Well, if you guys watched the very first episode of the show a couple of weeks ago, I talked to you guys about how the Astros bullpen was just going to be nails and how I was really concerned about starting pitching. Now, I know it's just a small sample size. Don't get me wrong. And I'm going to get out of here before the Astros take on the Rangers tonight. I promise you. Even though you guys can multitask if you wanted to. You can keep an eye on the game and watch the show. But I'm going to get out of here before the game starts so you guys can watch it. But I'm actually really encouraged. And the reason I'm encouraged is even though it's a small sample size, the starters have been amazing. Like, 2 of our pitchers have a 0 ERA right now. Now, one of them threw a no-hitter and hasn't pitched again. But still, Javier looks great. He looks like he's his old self. And in 42 innings, they've allowed 26 hits. They have a 1.39 ERA. No starter has given up a home run. They have 36 strikeouts and a 1.07 whip. If I would have told you that at the beginning of the show or at the beginning of the season, when we were all worried about, Fromber didn't look very good in spring training. And he didn't look great in his first game, but he had a good bounce back game. Like I said, Javier looks amazing. Ronel Blanco, I was at the game when he threw a no-hitter. We're going to get into that later. Nobody saw that coming. Hunter Brown has a 0 ERA. To be fair, he only pitched 4 innings. But still, like, starting pitching is what we were most worried about. And the starting pitchers have been great. They've been wonderful. To my surprise. The bullpen, on the other hand, has not been that great. In 21 innings, they've given up 21 hits. They have a 5.96 ERA. They've given up 6 home runs. 24 strikeouts is good, but the whip, 1.74. That's not terrible either. But the bullpen's not been good right now. Well, why are you encouraged, Nick? Because there's no way in the world that the bullpen is going to continue to be that bad. And we have enough evidence to believe that at least Javier can keep this up. Now, I know he had a great start last season, and then the last 10 games or so, he wasn't great. But it seems like he's figured some things out. Fromber's going to Fromber. He's going to be good sometimes. He's going to be bad sometimes. But if you look at the way they're pitching right now, and you think about the fact that you're going to get Verlander back eventually, what version of Verlander? We don't know. But you're going to get Verlander. You're going to get Urquidy. Now, all of a sudden, it looks like starting pitching might be a strong suit for the team. And there's no way the bullpen, Josh Hader, I think his ERA is 5-something right now. That's not gonna continue. Presley's ERA is 7.71. I'm wondering if maybe he's just not that he's not okay with coming in so early, but maybe he just hasn't gotten used to it. I think the bullpen's going to figure it out, though. I have no reason to believe that they're just going to be this bad all year. And maybe the starters will also kind of regress back to, I don't think that Javier is going to have a 0 ERA for the entire season, nor is Hunter Brown. But the starters have been good. The bullpen has not been great. Bullpen is the main reason that we're 2-5 right now. But also the Astros have played a little sloppy. They have 3 errors already. There's been some horrible base running mistakes by Jose Altuve, of all people. Jose Altuve is the greatest Astro to ever live. Nobody should argue that with me. I will fight you tooth and nail if you try to. Jose Altuve is the greatest Astro of all time. But how in the hell does this dude not know how to run bases? I do not understand. He can steal bases, and he hasn't been great at that recently either. But he just makes some not smart base running choices at times. And the Astros have not gotten off to the start that they want to. But some very encouraging things about the season. The game I was at, where Ronald threw a no-hitter, they clubbed, 4 or 5 home runs, scored 10. They scored 8 in their last win against Toronto. Now, maybe it's because Toronto sucks. I wasn't expecting Toronto to suck this year. I don't know if any of you guys were. But I think that Toronto's at least a decent team. And I don't care if they suck anyway. You're supposed to beat the sucky teams, and that's how you tune up for the good ones. But pardon me, I needed to get back to my Astro screen. But I'm optimistic that the bullpen, they'll figure it out. I told you guys first episode, the Astros are gonna score runs. I know they've had a couple of lulls. They have a couple of players who still haven't gotten in the groove. But you got to be really encouraged by Jeremy Pena. Every time Dubon comes in, he gets a hit. You got to be encouraged. Yordan hit a couple of bombs. Altuve's doing what he does. Tucker looks good. This team always has games here and there sprinkled in where the offense just isn't clicking. But I think overall for the season, I think they're going to be fine. And we're going to find out. We're going to find out quickly because they play a series against the Rangers starting tonight. 7:10 is the first pitch. Cecil says Bagwell is the greatest Astro of all time. Anybody want to tell him? Cecil, I love you, brother. And I told you, my goal is to send you to a game, whichever game you want to go to, Dynamo, Rockets, Astros. My goal is to make it so that you get to go see a game live. But does anybody want to tell him? Jeff Bagwell was a great baseball player. A great first baseman. Like, bona fide Hall of Famer. Don't get me wrong. But the dude was absolute trash in the playoffs. Trash in the playoffs. He was the James Harden of the Houston Astros. And Biggio, too. I'm sorry, guys. I know they are royalty in this city, and I love Bagwell and Biggio. I became Astros fans because of Bagwell and Biggio. But they were garbage in the playoffs. Every year. Every year they broke my heart. Jose Altuve is the greatest Astro of all time because not only does he ball out in the regular season, but in the postseason at 5'1", whatever he is a baller. He's second behind Manny Ramirez for the most postseason home runs. Like, you cannot deny. You got to give it to Altuve. He's going to get 3,000 hits as an Astro. He's going to go first ballot Hall of Fame unless, I don't know if 2017 is going to factor into whether he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or not, but he should be. Greatest Astro of all time. No offense to Biggio, Bagwell. You guys are great. He did nothing in the playoffs but hit like 232 with no home runs. I'll tell you what, Cecil, if you really believe that Bagwell is the greatest Astro of all time, I need you to put in the chat, what is your all-time favorite Jeff Bagwell postseason moment? I will wait. No? All right. Hey, it looks like my man Chris Rivers is in the building. Thank you so much for joining. He quickly says, go Stros. Congrats on y'all getting dogs, by the way. Don't be nervous, Chris. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. He's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan who will be walking into the season with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. How you feeling about that, man? Oh, he says he's going to his son's baseball game. Hey, man, good luck to the little man. I hope he hits one out the park. I hope he makes you proud, bud. Thank you for dropping in for a few seconds. You guys, I appreciate anytime you take any time out of your day to drop in and say what's up. I appreciate it. Chris, this show will be here. You can listen to it on Apple. You can listen to it on Spotify, Amazon. You can go back to the YouTube channel. It'll be up on Facebook. I have a Kick and I have a Twitch as well. So anywhere you want to check out the show, whenever your son's game is over, you guys watch it together, man. I appreciate it. All right. Let's talk Rangers Astros tonight. We got Hunter Brown bringing in his 0.00 ERA versus Cody Bradford, not Corey Bradford. That's a wide receiver for the Houston Texans. Cody Bradford's got a 3.6 in his one start. Hunter, all I ask is that you go longer than 4 innings, buddy. We need you to, because that bullpen is scary right now. Give us at least 5. Like, earn the dub, or at least the chance to get the dub, right? Yeah, we need Hunter Brown to pitch more than 4 innings. If he can pitch more than 4 innings, and I'm gonna say don't allow more than 3 runs, I think the Astros. I think the Astros are gonna step up in this series, and I think by the end of this series they'll probably be at 500. I'm gonna call my shot right now. If I'm wrong, you can call me, you can laugh at me, you can tweet me, you can DM me, whatever you got to do. But I think the Astros, let's see. Let me double check. I can't remember if this is a 4 or a 3 game. Nick, you're the president of Houston Sports. How do you not know? Bro, I can't be everywhere at once, man. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. All right. It is a 3-game series. And then we play Atlanta. Man, we got some tough games coming up. So, yeah, that first pitch is at 7:10. Double checking that. Yeah, 7:10, first pitch in Minute Maid Park. Some of you guys may be already headed to the game, filing in, watching batting practice. I'm really hopeful that the Astros are going to get a dub tonight. Let's start it off strong and finish the series off strong. Speaking of Astros, I did mention Ronel Blanco throwing a no-hitter. Can I just, I talk a lot about how I want this show to be more than about just the game. For those of you who know me, you know this, but some of you don't know me. I'm 40 years old. I am the product of a biracial relationship. My mother and my father divorced after 25 years of marriage. Several years later, my mother began living in her truth as a gay woman. And as difficult as that experience was of her keeping it from us because she didn't know how we would react, to her finally living her truth and us letting her know that nothing matters to us, mother, except for that we love you. You brought me into this world. You taught me love. You taught me unconditional love. You taught me everything I needed to know to be a good person. And my father did as well. So even though that they did not end up happily ever after, I went to a baseball game with my brother, my mother, my father, and my wife, and my brother's fiance. And we had a great time. And I don't know if any of you here listening are children. I mean, even though we're adults, children of divorce. Even as an adult, even if it's deep down inside, there's that little kid in you that there's still a little bit of hurt and disappointment about the fact that your parents didn't stay together. And even though both my parents I know that the path that their lives have gone is the right path for them. They were better apart than they were together. I know that about the divorce that I had at a very young age. And even though I know that, like I said, being a child of divorce, there's still that little kid inside of you that it still stings a little bit. And that's what pains me, is because I know I've given that same pain to my 18-year-old daughter, who she probably doesn't think twice about it consciously. But I know deep down inside, subconsciously, there's probably that little kid who is saddened by the fact that her parents aren't together. But it was really cool. My parents and me and my brother, we've never been to a baseball game together before. This is the first game we've ever been to, and we had a great time. We ate hot dogs with chili and cheese. We drank tall margaritas. And of all the games, you can go to 100 baseball games. There's only, up to this point, there'd been 16 no-hitters in Astros history. Every time I go to a baseball game, I think to myself, I wonder if I'm going to see a no-hitter. And I never have. The closest I came was a couple of years ago. Garcia took a no-no into like the 6th. So as I'm watching this game, and I would say there was probably a little bit of awkwardness that my mother and father were at the game with us. My brother was there for like 5 seconds. And then it just became, we were talking, we were enjoying the game. As the scoreboard kept ticking those zeros down, down, down in the hit column, this is what I got to tell you guys about me. Every year for baseball, I alternate. Is this going to be a superstitious year or is it going to be a non-superstitious year? So last year was my superstitious year. Like every game in the playoffs, I made sure I did the exact same thing for wins, made sure I did the exact routine. Sometimes I texted my buddy Josh Beard during the game, but if they lost, then, hey, dude, we can't text during the game. And so if we didn't text during the game and they won, I wouldn't text him in the game until they lost. So last year was my superstitious year, and it didn't get us anywhere except for a Game 7 clobbering in the ALCS. And it got us to not win a home game for the entire ALCS again. Well, not win a home game similar to the way 2019 World Series went. So, where I was going with this is that never have I seen a no-hitter. And of all the games for me to witness a no-hitter, it happens to be the very first game that myself, my brother, my mother, and my father are at together. I would be lying to you if I said I was not overwhelmed with emotion. My buddy Ricardo Palacios text messaged me and said, man, what a great game for you to be at. And I told him, I said, bro, like, I'm literally crying. I was moved to tears. First of all, because I'm a huge Astros fan, and I understand the historical significance of watching a no-hitter. I know, like I said, you can go to 100, 200 baseball games. You'll never see one. And I know they're a lot more common now because of the style of baseball that everyone's playing. You're either striking out or hitting home runs, so guys are swinging at everything. But still, a no-no is a no-no. And the fact that I actually got to witness one in person, my mother was there, my father was there, my brother was there, my wife was there. And my wife's the one who made this happen. She was graciously given tickets by a company that she's hired to clean for her at her business. And as a show of gratitude, they gave her these tickets. I got to give credit to my brother. He's the one who picked the night. He said, let's go on Monday. What a great and awesome experience. And I just wanted to share with you guys the picture of all of us together. As you can see in the background, you see Ronel Blanco, a no-hitter. What a ragtag bunch. If I ever saw a Guardians of the Galaxy looking bunch, that is them right there. But what a great moment, man. It's a moment I'm never going to forget. And I talk to you guys all the time about how sports fanhood for me never originated with a game. It always originated with the moments that I took in the game and what they meant. And it also had a lot to do with pride in the city and pride for having a team that bore the name of the city I'm from. But it had to do with moments like this one, man. And it's a moment I'm never going to forget. When I'm laying on my deathbed about to go off into the sunset, I will remember this moment. It was awesome. It was very great. All right, let's take it to the chat. Cecil says, hey, we're the same age. And I used to have thyroid cancer when I was younger, but I'm cancer-free now. Just deal with judgment told people due to how I look. Bubba, let me tell you something, man. You are a unique individual. You are who you are. If you're a person of faith, then you know that God knows you by name. He knows your heart. And that's all that matters, man. And there's no judgment here, brother. Judgment-free zone here in the Houston Sports Nation. It says, my mom wasn't in my life until I got older, but my grandmother and dad raised me. So, man, I mean, there's so many stories. And Cecil, you would probably agree that through some of your dark times, I would imagine there's probably a time or two that sports was an escape for you. Whether it's Astros, Rockets, or maybe it's actually playing sports. Maybe, there's always some story that when I meet people of a time that a sports moment just temporarily healed whatever pain they were going through. I know that happened for me. I mean, you think about 2017, the Astros, like we just went through Hurricane Harvey. This city was devastated. But the Astros being in the World Series and finally coming through and winning it for just those few weeks in October and those couple hours that the baseball games are going on, all of that's pain went away. And I think the Astros inspired the city of Houston. And that's why, despite, I understand, that championship is tainted, but I will never see it any different than I saw it when it happened. I cried when it happened. I shed tears of joy when the Astros won 2017, and I will never apologize for that at all. So it's just, this is what I want to talk to people about who maybe watch the show who aren't that into sports. For me, it's more than just a game, man. It's the memories you make while watching the game. I say it all the time. It's the first time you played catch with your dad. It's the first game you ever went to, whether you're a child or an adult. When we walked in the stadium, my brother said, "Hey, you remember the feeling when that cold air hits you?" I talked about that in one of the rehearsals. Just the experience of going to the stadium, smelling the popcorn, hearing the roar of the crowd, man. I sang the 7th inning stretch, "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," like nobody has ever sang it. My wife was just laughing at me the whole time because I did not sing one note. I just screamed as loud as I could. Like, I love going to the games, and I would love to help somebody who's never experienced that before, like yourself, Cecil. I would love to help you experience that sometime. He says, "I appreciate that. I needed that." Anytime, brother. Like I said, this is a safe space for you. I hope you come back every week to watch the show. You're always welcome here. All right, guys, the Astros game is getting started in a little bit. So really quick, let's do the state of the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets' chances of going to the play-in are, one more time, they're not going to make it. They got mollywopped by the Warriors, 133-110. And if you guys watched last week, I told Tari, I told him, why are you going to taunt the Golden State Warriors, 4-time champions, veterans, dudes who are about that life, and you're not even playing? I want y'all to look at Tari's face. Look at this dumb look on his face with that stupid shirt. Bro, I'm sorry. I got to put this one on Ime Udoka, though. If I'm the head coach of the Houston Rockets and somebody walks in my locker room with that stupid shirt on, I'm cutting them immediately. Like, you're no longer on the team, bro. Wait, you're not the GM. You can't do that. I'll deal with him later. You cannot be sitting on the bench with a mysterious leg injury, whatever your problem with your leg is. And I told you last week, I'm like, you better make sure you're dressing for this game if you're going to talk all this trash. You make an Instagram post, Warriors come out to play. Then he puts on a shirt that says Warriors come out to play. Bro, you come out to play. Now, nobody got kicked in the balls. Thank God. And the Rockets will live to see another day. They're still young. They're still inexperienced. But, bro, that's a bad look. That's a really bad look. And Ime Udoka had some strong words after the game was over about how he felt like his team handled the moment.
It looked like the moment was too big for a lot of players out there. I saw it look like deer in headlights a little bit. Either look soft or scared. One or the other. And that's two bad things for a lot of our guys to have, and didn't rise up to the moment like I thought we would.
Did he say that they look scared? Damn. If my coach says I look soft and I look scared, I'm not appreciating that, but they got to eat that because he's not lying. And the person who was talking the most trash wasn't even on the court. And that drives me nuts. But these are the mistakes that young teams make. Tari, I'm going to talk to you again because I know you're watching, brother. I'm going to talk to you again. You're a baller, difference maker, offensive rebounder, hustler. They never run a single play for you, and you can get 20 and 10 occasionally. Not average 20 and 10. But on any given night, your hustle will get you a double-double at least. You play great defense. I understand the passion. And you know what? I can appreciate the fact that at least you're engaged with what the team's doing. When you're injured and you're not playing, you could be completely disengaged, not caring, pouting, feeling sorry for yourself. So I will give you credit for that. I'm glad that you care. But bro, like you can't poke that bear. Like, I don't know if you've watched game tape on the Warriors circa 2017, 18, 19. Like, they're them dudes, bro. And yes, they're getting older and they're getting closer to walking off in the sunset. But Klay Thompson looked like he was rejuvenated. Steph Curry, Draymond, like these dudes have been there before. You haven't. So look, I love the confidence. I get the idea of what you were trying to do, but you can't make that video. You can't wear that stupid shirt. And Ime Udoka, bro, you're supposed to be like a disciplinarian. And I know in this league, you got to let guys be who they are. But you think Greg Popovich, your coach, your mentor, would have let somebody wear that stupid shirt on the sideline? No way in hell. So the Rockets have a long way to go. I guess mathematically they haven't been eliminated, but it's over. They're not going to make the play-in. So now the question becomes, when Şengün is healthy, can he and Jalen Green play together? And that's going to be the challenge for the offseason because there's not going to be any postseason for them to figure that out this year. Ime Udoka, that's your job in the offseason. How do I get Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green to cook together and take this team back into the glory days of winning playoff series and hopefully, eventually winning another championship. I'm telling you guys, I don't remember if I said this in a rehearsal or if I said this in an actual show, but the Rockets are on the clock because Victor Wembanyama is coming. The Spurs are terrible right now. They're not going to stay terrible. They're not. I give that dude like 2-3 years before he's the best player in the league. And I don't know if he's going to be on the Spurs, but he'll be playing with some other all-star top 10, top 15 players on his team, whether it's through the draft or whether he teams up with somebody in free agency. That dude's coming. So you guys need to get good quick because the James Harden era, they had to deal with the Warriors. You may be having to deal with the Spurs next. Because Victor Wembanyama is a video game cheat, bro. And you don't have another one of him on your team. And I know you guys are saying LP dropped 45 on him. Wait till Wembanyama hits the weight room. Dude, he's literally in his rookie season. And he could win Defensive Player of the Year. The Rockets are going to have to get it together quickly. So hopefully they'll do that. Really quick, I do want to mention RIP to the Cougs who lost in the Sweet 16 to Duke. I asked the question before that game, were the Cougars going to be intimidated by the prestige of Duke? I don't think that's what happened. I think, number one, Jamal Shead got hurt. Huge loss. I mean, he's the leader of your team. He's the only ball handler you have. And then I kept preaching it over and over and over. If the Houston Cougars do not score, they're not going to win. And they could not score. Like, as good as their defense is, and it was great, Duke was able to score. You know, when you're a good scorer, you can score on good defense. When you can't score, I mean, some of their shots were wide open. They were still missing them, you know? So it was disappointing. The end of an era because Jamal Shed no longer has any eligibility left. He entered the draft last season and then went back to school. I don't think Jamal Shed's an NBA point guard. I could be wrong. Maybe he'll play overseas. Maybe he'll coach. I don't know. But it's an end of an era. He had a great career as a Cougar. Went to the Sweet 16 4 times. The Elite 8 twice. Final Four once. It's a hell of a career, man. But as great as Kelvin Sampson is as a coach, like, dude, you got to find some more criers and you got to find some more sharps that scorers who also play defense. And, I mean, there's a lot of great basketball played in the city of Houston. It shouldn't be that hard. I know with the whole NIL thing, like maybe it is a little bit harder to get the kids to want to stay at home because there's other programs that can maybe offer them more. But, I mean, in college basketball, I mean, right now, Purdue, Houston, I know UConn, but all the, Duke was not a powerhouse this year. Kentucky lost in the first round. You have an opportunity right now, and I'm sure those programs are going to make a comeback. So it's going to be on Kelvin Sampson to keep recruiting, keep coaching his ass off. We'll see without Jamal Shed, who ends up being the point guard for this team. Can they get back to the Sweet 16? Can they eventually climb the hurdle and win that NCAA championship? I hope so. That'd be great for the city of Houston. As the president, if you're going to rep 10 toes down, you want every Houston team to win. And I hope that they do. All right, Pops, I saw that you came in, and I appreciate that. We're going to be wrapping it up here in just a little bit after I remind you that the State of the Union in Houston, I know we've had a couple of bumps, Astros, Rockets, but the State of the Union is still strong. There's still reason to be optimistic about all of our teams. Look, right now, basketball's winding down. Baseball's just getting started. We got the draft in a few weeks. There's a lot of reasons to be excited about Houston sports. The State of the Union is very, very strong, and I appreciate the fact that you guys join me every week to hear the State of the Union address. Don't forget to join me next week. I'll be back on Thursday. It's going to be either 5 or 7, depending on what games are being played that day. 5 o'clock turned out pretty good. I felt like I had some pretty good support. You guys probably have filed out now because the Astros are going to be starting in an hour. But I really appreciate the fact that you guys watch the show. Once again, I want to remind you of the ways you can support. You're doing one of them already. Watch, listen, share with your friends. If you have friends who are Houston sports fans, say, hey, man, I know a guy who does a pretty good Houston sports podcast. He has the audacity to call himself the president of Houston Sports Nation, but he's not being arrogant. Like, I'm just saying, as the president, what that really means is that I represent you, the fan. This is a fan's podcast. This isn't a talking head podcast where I act like I know more than you and that I talk down to you and listen to your takes and always tell you how wrong they are, how stupid your opinions are. That's not what I'm going to do. I am a fan. I know many of you probably know more about sports than I do. But the question is, do you care about Houston sports more than I do? I'd be hard-pressed to believe that. But if you do, why don't you keep coming in, hop in the chat. You can call sometime. I would love to hear from more of you. Once again, you guys go follow the Houston Sports Nation Facebook fan group. That is where you guys can, once again, give suggestions on what to talk about, share your game day picks, share your news. Look, I can't be everywhere at once. I heard about the Stephon Diggs trade because my brother sent me a screenshot. Hey, I don't mind you guys sending me news you want covered at all. Like, we're in this thing together. This is a podcast for the people, by the people. All right, guys. So once again, watch, listen, share. You guys can go and look in the description or the show notes. There's a link to my tip jar. Why can I not point at this thing? There's a QR code right there. Anybody who leaves a donation of $50 or more will get a free Houston Sports State of the Union t-shirt. And you're going to get a fresh new one that has this beautiful logo that the First Lady of Houston Sports made herself. And also, once again, the affiliate links. If you want to get some Houston Sports fan gear, why not use my affiliate link? And there's also links in there to all of the podcast equipment that I am using in this studio to bring you this wonderful podcast. And then once again, if you're interested in sponsorship, I would love to talk to you guys about that as well. All right, guys, I'm going to see you guys next week. In the meantime, you guys stay 10 toes down for H-Town. I'll see you next week.
This has been the Houston Sports State of the Union podcast, hosted by Nick Stevenson. Tune in next week for more news and analysis of your favorite Houston teams. Please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, the app, formerly known as Twitter, if that's even really still a thing. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.